Hello and welcome to a bit of Tribes Ascend beta. This game just came out in open beta and I've been playing it a bit and it's quite good. If that spoils it too quickly, into the video. This is a bit of team deathmatch footage I recorded a couple of days ago from, well, an early level I was at. It just shows some of the basics and different quirks that Tribes Ascend has. As it starts up now, the loading times are pretty good. That's already first, but that's pretty normal for an Unreal Tournament 3 type game, or Unreal 3 engine game, which this is.
No quarter given.
It's a free-to-play game that's currently in open beta, after coming out of closed beta a few days ago. But it has a very good pedigree from original Tribes games since about 1998, when the original Tribes game came out. And it's mostly been a PC title, although there's been like one or two console games that have came out based on the series, but the mechanics have pretty much stayed the same. Big explosions and fast movement across levels. See, this is the basic team deathmatch, where you have the normal team deathmatch sort of setup where you are basically trying to kill each other in a team, but there is also an added mechanic of having a flag, similar to capture the flag, whereby if you actually catch the flag, you get 2 times the kills against your opponents. It works similar to Battlefield 3 in terms of actual kill systems, where you, by every time you respawn, a token is taken off the kill number. And when you run out of zero, runs to 0, the game ends, and the person with the least loses, in other words. Basics are, well, this is just normal combat. I actually prefer the class. It's a classes-based system similar to Battlefield again, whereby I'm actually using, there's pretty much 3 main types of class spread across about 7 class types actually. So this is an actual light class, whereby you actually are able to move much faster than the others and basically run around the map at much faster speeds than soldiers or the heavier type of opponents. So you're basically the flag capturer and the weakest person on the battlefield essentially, which means you can only really take about 1 or 2 hits before actually going down, versus the heavy, which can take about 4 or 5 hits from a light opponent. The Pathfinder class this is known as. And your main weapon is the light spin fuser, which is, as you can see, sort of a grenade launcher that fires at very long distances in sort of a straight arc, but you've got to, it's timed to actually get there to the actual destination of the shot, which means it comes down to an awful lot of skill, and if you don't get the skill, you don't get the kills, which is pretty much led to the actual setting where you've got to get blue plate specials, where the person who hits another opponent with a disc wins. In other words, you get 700 damage with the light MK, the light spin fuser here, which in other words equates to a kill. So you can see there's quite a big splash damage from these type of weapons, and here the secondary weapon is the shotgun for the Pathfinder class, which is pretty much only useful at a certain distance, but is much, it's an instant, it's a hit scan weapon compared to the distance and estimation you're going to have to do with the spin fuser, but you don't get as much damage, barely any, compared to the actual. That was well, you would call it a blue plate special, but if you don't actually kill them, then it isn't classed by the game as that. See, it's good for the shotgun is good for taking down people when they're flying above you, because it's very, very hard to actually hit anybody with the spin fuser while in the air, which is pretty much where you're going to always be when you're using a jetpack. The main mechanics of this are that there's very large battlefields whereby you have many slopes and areas where you're going to be sliding around. Whenever you press the space bar in this case, you sort of become frictionless and are able to roll down hills to increase your speed. This, as I press space bar here, you'll see there's bars come on the left and right side measuring your speed, and as you go down further hills and increase your speed, it'll stay at that same speed unless you go uphill. So every time you go uphill, you go slower, and every time you go downhill, you go faster. And that's the basic mechanic behind the tribes and its movement system. The faster you go, the better you are, in other words, because it makes it harder for people to hit you, and it makes it sometimes, well, I would actually say it makes it harder to actually hit other people as well at that type of speed, unless you're moving straight towards them. But momentum sort of becomes a very important part of the gameplay. You don't want to lose momentum because it means you're a sitting duck for most people flying above you with a jetpack. The jetpack is sort of limited by the energy you have and the mass you are, so the heavier you are, the less speed you're going to be able to get up and the less jetpack usage you're going to get out of the energy you use. So you're not going to be able to travel as far, but you're heavier and have more hit points, so essentially that's the way it usually works. With a light character you have to be moving faster, with the heavier characters you can afford to stay a bit slower and try and pick off the targets at a distance or such things like that. Which sort of makes, while there isn't another class actually for sniping, this is one of the hardest things I've tried to do, because a distance is much higher than any other FPS I've probably ever seen, apart from, say, Battlefield. You're going to be pushing it for any sort of headshot shots or anything like that. So that's the other method of taking out enemies, but really the spin fuse is the only real weapon, which is strange because actually the soldier class has a main weapon that isn't a spin fuser. It's actually another weapon that has a delay, but it's the assault rifle, which has much less damage, has faster fire rate, no splash damage, and is not instant hit like a shotgun. So it sort of gives you a bit more of a difficulty when it comes to actually taking somebody out, because one well-placed spin fuser will take an enemy down to half or even a quarter life, whereas an assault rifle you'd have to be whittling them down and keeping on track all of the time just to try and take somebody out. So yeah, I was actually flag carrier there. Flag carrier essentially makes you the biggest target on the field, but if you can keep fast enough, you, well, obviously can keep away from most of the heavies or even the mediums, meaning you're only really against good light players, and against speed, just keeping yourself fast and moving means you win as a distant shot. With the spin fuser, you've got to essentially just learn how fast the actual projectile moves. So predicting where they're going to go and predicting how long it's going to take for the thing to get there means you're going to get a hit if you're good at using it. There are other weapons available, such as what somebody just called an inventory system here, which is essentially, again, and I'm calling it a tactical strike, whereby as you call it in, it takes a few seconds to happen and it bombards the area, which is very good for taking out flag carriers, especially if they're faster than you, and makes it much more of a easier game, especially if you get the points early when you get the points for the killings. There are these inventory slots as well that are based around all of the against the field. You may just about get the flag here, and I do get the flag here, yes. So then you're running away essentially now. People will be trying to follow you at great speed, so if you can keep away, you're a goal. And it gives you extra points of source that you... I died against. Going anywhere near a wall basically means you're open to the other people's spin fuses and makes you the biggest target, in other words. You want to try and stay away from things as much as possible, but that usually means less speed. And in other words, you've got to keep that up all the way through the game. And there are people who can go extremely fast in this game. I've seen people going much faster than I've ever been able to get to. And then of course there are unlocks and things and basic character progression you get in most of the modern FPSs and the like. So you're essentially just constantly upgrading, constantly improving yourself, and because it's a free-to-play title, you can essentially buy characters and using their in-game gold system to pay for certain upgrades and different weapons, things like that. But you can earn these with XP, but the amount of XP you actually need is a bit ridiculous at the moment, considering it's a beta. But let's just say you're not going to be able to get most things without an awful lot of gameplay. I think I worked it out as if you get about 1,000 points a match, well, we lost there anyway. If you get about 1,000 points a match, you are probably going to be able to get at least one weapon unlock, one of the weaker ones perhaps, of it's about 45k, so it's 45 matches, probably 46 or 7, to be able to get something like a new weapon unlocked, which means potentially if you want to be able to unlock the soldier's spin fuser, you're going to have to be able to earn that, and it's probably something they're going to have to swap around eventually to be able to. You get these, it's sort of a, you'll notice here that they have sort of similar to a Call of Duty type system, yeah, that they give you medallions for certain things you sort of achieve, flag takes, flag captures, holding stuff, and it's all worked out at sort of a best player at the end of the match, and gives you sort of personal statistics. It all works towards XP in the end of the day, which in other words works towards your weapons and your upgrades you can get.
Make the soldiers pay
I really do end up just using Pathfinder all the time, because in the end it feels like speed is the necessary thing. While the other classes such as the heavy do seem to be alright, if you can't actually catch the opponent, you can't exactly beat them, which is the main problem with being heavy. Albeit there are different classes of heavy that seem to have different setups. I mean, heavy seems to be one of the better classes for capture the flag, but I have not really played capture the flag that much due to it's quite a difficult curve being able to catch the flag and take it all the way to the other opponent's flag area, in other words. Get it from the other person, take it back. Seems just a bit too complex for this at the moment. For me at the moment. So yeah, the free-to-play model seems to be working alright for the moment, but I still think they need to tweak it and improve it. And since it's beta, you're obviously going to be having these problems available that they're going to have to improve on as the player base gets more used to the amount of costs, and when they notice that people... At the moment, buy-to-power ratio doesn't seem to be that high. I mean, you can sort of earn things, and the amount of XP you get is kind of low, but they do have a method of getting more XP through, in other words, paying for like booster packs and dub points, weeks and months and all that sort of thing, which gives you more XP and the ability to... There's not really much buy to power. While you can buy power, there's nothing stopping you from actually earning it yourself, which is at least decent. And certain upgrades you can't actually pay for using the in-game gold system, in other words. You've got to actually be able to pay for you've got to play the game to be able to actually get good upgrades. But again, they do give you some of the better, well, the useful weapons as your main choice of weapon at the start of the game, such as with the... I mean, most of them have spin fuses apart from the soldier, which has like a secondary weapon that's sort of like a spin fuser, but it's more of a grenade launcher type thing, which has a lot more drop, which can be a bit annoying. And it's the reason why I've not played soldier that much, in other words. But yeah, essentially, I've actually been playing these a lot more than I would have thought so, and after only finding out about it recently, rather than being one of those original Tribes 2 players who always used to rave about how much of a skilled game this used to be. It's been like 5 years since the last game came out for, well, one of the games came out in the Tribe series, and it's got a developed universe and stuff that happens in these things. I don't know much about it because, as I said, I've only actually played. This is my first Tribes game, but the mechanics definitely hold up, and it is incredibly fun for a free game. Because I'm struggling to think of many games that can actually take this on for being a free game. Like very few, such as like Team Fortress 2 or perhaps a few MMOs, but that's about it. And already this is still in beta, and they've already managed to make a game that's incredibly fun and competitive enough to probably take on something that's similar to Battlefield 3. I mean, even capture the flag and such game modes. You've got vehicles as well. Albeit I've barely even tried that as well. There are vehicles in this game. It's just I've not really tried them out. Basically, they just use the same sort of mechanics. You use speed, and with some of the weaker ones, and slow movement with higher. Yeah, in other words, every time there's something moving fast, they usually have something that's harder to aim. And every time there's something moving slow, they use something that's very high damage to take opponents out, such as this heavy that I'm about to attempt to shoot and then give up on halfway through probably. That tends to be my tactic. Hit him once, let somebody else finish him off, keep moving. Because it's stopping is, as I said, a very bad idea. I've actually, over the time of actually trying this, plenty of like Unreal Tournament Quake has gone into learning how to fire these weapons using the rocket launcher in Quake in Unreal. It's pretty much showing you how to play these type of games, predicting where somebody's going to be. And there's even like methods of parts in the graphics that actually show you how you're supposed to be able to play this. Such as, if you look, you can see there's a shadow that's cast by every person on the battlefield in a certain direction, and this essentially tells you where they are in terms of how far away from the floor they are. So, if you can see a shadow that isn't right underneath the player, you know that if you fire the spin fuser, it isn't going to hit them, and the splash damage probably isn't going to be able to do any damage. Which means you've got to be able to predict and look for this type of shadow movement, and it's probably one of the few games that I'd actually say probably would benefit from 3D, being able to tell exactly where like your opponent is on the battlefield, because many a time you'll be firing the weapon not knowing how far away from the ground they are, and simply just bouncing off behind them, or too far away for splash damage to affect. Yeah, going for a flag when there is completely motionless is pretty much a bad idea as well, because people will just bombard the area, and there's pretty much, you've got a 50% chance you'll actually be able to get the flag when it's sat there, and there's people running around it, because every time you fire a grenade it'll always blast the flag out of the way anyway. So you've pretty much got one attempt at trying to get it, and then you'll see people constantly bouncing around trying to get back up to speed and run back round to get it again, because you can't just walk into it and you're asking for trouble. So yeah, as we see, we're counting down with this match now, where the opponents now have 3, and because we have the flag, if somebody was to hit somebody now, it'd take off two players and the game would be over. See, we can already tell what's going to happen here. And there we go. There, the match wins. You can see how the XP system works here now. You can see that as you get more skills and kill, in other words, perform more score, gaining tasks in the game, you get more points, which filters down to more XP. So it's about 3,341 XP there, which is a lot for a game. It's going to give you a lot of points towards any sort of weapon you want to get. Many of the early upgrades actually only cost about 3,000 XP, so you'll be able to get with if you've played the game enough, you will be able to get some XP and some of the early upgrades. Well, again, the upgrades aren't overpowered or anything like that at the moment. They seem to only give you like a little bit of extra energy here, or some extra like HP. Not enough to really unbalance the game. There are some the weapon upgrades can seem to be a bit unbalanced, as I've said, due to the fact that you've got to work quite hard to get at least 1 XP boost, which obviously means that you'll want to probably think about paying for some of them eventually, if you want to actually try out some other classes that you haven't been able to unlock, but you want to try a different weapon that you've not unlocked as well, such as the sniper rifle for the original sniper class, I think it's called. I might be wrong. Yeah, I probably am wrong. There's sort of 3 light infantry classes. The Pathfinder, there's a sniper one, I can't remember the name of, and I think it's the Infiltrator is the 3rd one, which essentially has a basic cloak, which I've seen at the moment doesn't seem to be that effective. Probably uses too much energy or something, because you instantly be able to spot them blinking in and out of existence, following where they go. But yeah, essentially sniping isn't as easy as you would want it, and even the secondary weapon for the sniper is pretty damn hard to use. But the upgrade for the sniper rifle is a rifle that uses a simple, anything it hits takes full damage approach, whereas the original upgrade you actually get is similar to like the TF2 sniper rifle, where the longer you're zoomed in, the more damage it does. So it feels like a necessary upgrade to get in the end. But as I said, the two primary weapons for the Pathfinder, the class I'm using at the moment, is the Spin Fuser Light, which is pretty much what the only real weapon you'd ever need, and there is the use of the Bolt Launcher, which is supposedly just a faster firing and more damaging, well, a slower firing rate, but a higher damage weapon compared to the Spin Fuser. The heavier classes, again, there's only one at the moment that's unlocked when you first begin the game, and that's got a simple secondary weapon is a heavier MKD, which is just a higher damage version, and a sort of mortar, which is for higher range attacks and things like that, which I've actually tried it, and it seems quite hard to actually be able to hit anybody with the mortar, especially because you're essentially predicting where it's going to land and then how long it's going to take for the actual explosion to detonate and take somebody out, which can be really quite annoying, especially because you end up just firing over and then switching over to the secondary, this proper Spin Fuser over there, just to try and take somebody out. But other than that, it's also quite a pretty game. Most Unreal games seem to have this sort of down now, that all the post-processing effects do look good. It's not the most prettiest game. I mean, it's a lot of it runs quite well as well. Without fraps, I can get about 100 to like 170 frames per second on a decent rig, which is pretty useful when you want to be able to move fast-paced. I would never really suggest playing this at anything other less than 60 frames per second, due to the fast-paced nature and the need to be able to predict where people are going and things like that. So you've got to be able to play it at speed, but they've made sure that you're going to be able to do that. I mean, the terrain is pretty easy to render if you think about it. It's just one basic texture, so you're not going to be struggling in that type of system. It's the character models are nice and everything. The lighting is nice, but geometry is sort of a bit sparse, as you would probably expect from the amount of things that are actually in the maps. The large maps that are just bordered off, essentially. And you've got to be able to have all these large ramps and things to be able to gain speed anyway. There's actually, I only showed 2 maps of this game so far, which are the sort of volcanic area and the sort of a icy type style map. There's no real difference to the actual terrain at the moment, but it might be something they may end up adding later on. The rest of the maps are actually, I think there's one that's sort of called a lagoon, so I think it might something or other, and which is quite a watery map with ships flying above that you can jump onto and things like that. But to add a bit more spice to the gameplay. But it's basically the same sort of layout. There's also ones that are more like a basin sort of thing, where there's small ridges in the centre plus large ridges around the outside, where you can speed up to get into the game and then struggle to get out, in other words. As well as a few like tighter maps that allow you to sort of pinpoint. It's like a circular map. It's called I think it's a sandy map, in other words, where you've got space to take out people from the centre as bombardment sort of thing. You're essentially just chasing around people in the middle of a basin, a circuit, in other words. And a new match that I had, well, it says here, I wasn't originally to try the closed beta anyway, so I wouldn't know if it was new. It's called the Arena Method, and I've tried it quite a few times. It's alright. It's I don't think it takes the mechanics of the main Tribes game enough to make it as fun as like a team deathmatch, because the arenas are very small. Whether they sort of decide to make them less of arenas and more of open world areas, because it's a 5v5 limited match, not much happens. It's very close quarters, so they actually expect you to be able to constantly find something to take on. And essentially you've got 25 lives, where once your 25 lives are up, that's it, you lose the match. But people won't respawn, so as soon as you're down to about 2 opponents, you're out of opponents, then the game ends. But it's a fun game mode. I actually played that quite a few times before I decided that the team deathmatch is definitely the more fun at the moment. Whether they improve it, I mean, there's a lot of things that haven't been included in the game yet due to the beta nature. Things like supposedly ranked matches. I don't know what the difference is at the moment, because you seem to be getting experience for these unranked matches anyway, so what the difference is. They may be thinking of ladder type systems, you know, proper competition, and making it quite competitive, but again, because of the free-to-play nature, they will probably struggle to keep the competitive sort of line that other like games manage to get. Albeit, you know, Team Fortress 2 is again like another example of how this can be done right, and they can still have sort of competitive scene. But again, like things like Counter-Strike and Counter-Strike Source still get their competitive scenes through different, through the sort of exclusivity almost that free-to-play doesn't seem to offer. That and the fact that because there isn't a level playing field, there can be an awful lot of problems that can arise from having unlocks and things like that don't seem to have been working too well for competitive play, such as, you know, StarCraft 2 and such. You only end up having one set of well, you can only play it one way at the moment. There's no such a thing as an unlock or a better player. You've all got the same level playing field to play, and in this game you just don't have that. There is going to be some sort of difference, and I can see it causing a bit of rage and upwards and not working too well. But, you know, it could all change. They may change something. I mean, there's even talks that this could eventually become some sort of console game, but never say never. It's got a pretty good pedigree for PC, albeit, as I said, it's been on console. I would struggle to find, due to the open world and the fast-paced, whether this would work too well on a console, because resolution does seem to be king. I mean, at the moment I've set this to about 1280-720. I'm recording with fraps. It just feels a bit too restricted to be able to actually see what's going on in the field and be able to pinpoint things. And sniping was very, very hard. That's about it. That's a look at Tribe Descend and all the things that are going to be going on, and it's looking very good, and I'm going to probably be playing this a few more times. Albeit after these cute couple of matches I seem to have lost a lot of my touch, and that's probably because a lot of better people are coming onto the scene and trying it out. And that's about it. Tribe Descend. Play it. It's free. I'll put a link in the description. Okay, and bye. I may do some more of these. Never know.